Weird.
Oh, and here it is. Hey, Ellen, if you could unshare, thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. So let's get started. Let's see here. It says I am sharing screen, but perhaps the wrong screen. There we go. All right, I just want to double check that we're looking at the right screen. Titus, can you weigh in that we all look good? Awesome. So the impact of influencers, a small and medium business approach. Let us go. So we have a to-do list today, and we're just going to try and accomplish two things with your time. One is I want to start with establishing a shared baseline, the who, what, where, when, and why of influencer marketing, so that we all have a shared understanding of what we're going to be talking about. And then Titus is going to take it by providing you some tools to support your business. And this is really the meat of it, the how do you find, engage, work with, and measure success with an influencer. So let's go. Starting with establishing a shared baseline. What is a social media influencer? An individual who has the power to affect the purchase decisions of others because of their authority, their knowledge, their position, or relationship with their audience. Now, influencers in general are not a new thing. We tend to think of them from our past as usually some kind of celebrity who is endorsing a product. Where social media influencers are different is that they are just like you and I. They are regular people who have gained popularity such that they become a celebrity within a small niche of people. And among influencers, there are 5 tiers. These tiers are based on the number of followers that they have. 1,000 to 10,000 are nano influencers. These people often really focus on a small niche, and their followers are extremely engaged. 10,000 to 100,000 micro influencers. These people have a greater following, still often very niche focused with great engagement. And then we start to get into the mid-tier influencers. These are 100,000 to 500,000 followers. Macro influencers, 500,000 to a million, and more than a million, these are the mega influencers. Now we have some examples here of some local Hawaii-based influencers that you may or may not be familiar with. And we just want to point out that the count shown represent Instagram only. If you include all of their other platforms, you would see that their numbers are much higher than this. And we want to remind you that social media influencers are more than just on those social media platforms. They also can be found on podcasts, they can be found on blogs. What we showed earlier was just Instagram followings. But realistically, there are a ton of social media platforms out there, and these are the top 4 worldwide. And these are January 2024 stats. So even though there's a lot of chatter out there that Facebook is dead, Facebook absolutely is not, with 3.05 billion users worldwide. And it still has the largest user base in Hawaii as well. YouTube. I know a lot of us don't think of YouTube as a social media platform, but it absolutely is. It's the #2 platform in the world, 2.49 billion users. Instagram at 2 billion users, and our favorite TikTok, 1.56 billion users worldwide. We did exclude one platform, which is WhatsApp, and it has the same user base as Instagram at 2 billion. So I think all of us knew all of those things already, but we're really here to talk about why businesses choose to engage with a social media influencer to promote their businesses. The first few are all about reach and being in front of new people and the right people. So brand awareness, getting the word out there about your brand or your product or your service. And social media influencers have their own audience, and so you're able to, through them, bring awareness of your brand to their audience. Increasing reach. So literally that, making sure that your message reaches a larger number of people than you're able to reach today. Growing your following. You already have, I'm sure, a great follower base of people who already are engaged with your product. But with that increased awareness, with that increased reach, you can also grow your follower base so that you can continue to reach out to these people and share your message. Engaging your audience. I think engaging is kind of a nebulous word, but it's one that we all as digital marketers like to use. And it's really about getting a reaction from your audience. Is that a like? Is that a share? Is that a comment? All of these things are types of engagement. Building trust. Social media influencers are absolutely trusted by their audience. What they recommend are things that they theoretically believe in and use, and that their followers would also be able to enjoy. And so by recommending your product, you're building trust among their audience. Creating content. I mean, this is what social media influencers do best. And sometimes we just like to use social media influencers to create content that's different than what we're already doing and bring some new life and new energy into our feeds. Boosting traffic. When we talk about traffic, we're talking about traffic to your website if you have one. And so driving people who you don't currently have in your audience to visit your website and check out your services. And finally, number one, I think, and this is probably why most of you are here, driving conversions. In this case, conversion can be anything. It can be a sign up to your email list. It can be, literally something that you're selling. Lots of different types of conversions out there, but all social media influencers can drive all of these things. But the path to make all of these things happen is not easy. And so there are some common challenges. Let's first talk about managing the influencer relationship. We'll be transparent with you. Not all influencers are easy to work with. A lot of them are new to business. They may not be professional. They might just be kids who manage to get a great following amongst a niche audience. And so sometimes, if you are a business, and especially if you're in the corporate world, a lot of your expectations that might be matter of fact for someone doing business, you may not find that working with an influencer. The next challenge is developing and engaging on-brand content. And when we say on-brand, we mean not only for you as the business, but also for the influencer. They too have a look and feel to their business. And so ensuring that you can align what your business needs with what their audience expects of them can be really challenging. Next is creative freedom. Creative freedom is literally that. You will definitely, as a business, have ideas of what you envision this collaboration to look like. But the part of being an influencer is being creative and having your own voice. And so being able as a business owner to let go of the reins and trust in what your influencer wants to create is sometimes a challenge. Next, contracting and compensation negotiations. Hard for everyone. You as a business owner wants to know, is what the influencer asking worth it? Am I going to get my return on investment? We're going to talk a little bit further about contract negotiations and sort of the things that you should keep in mind when you're establishing a relationship with an influencer. Failure of content or shallow engagement. You've invested all this time and energy into creating something wonderful and it bombs. It happens. And so, learning why that may have happened uh, can be a challenge, but it's also fantastic because then you can learn and pivot and do it better next time. And finally, measuring your return on investment, your ROI. Definitely a challenge, not just with influencer marketing, but any kind of digital marketing. So with that, before we jump in to the meat of everything, I'm sure you're already picking up some questions. We're going to ask that you drop that in the QA below, and Ellen will help us facilitate those questions at the end of the session. All right, Titus, I'm going to pass it up to you.
All right, so as Manchali mentioned, the meat and potatoes of the deck is here. So our job for the next half an hour or so is to kind of give you the tools necessary to go out there, find the influencers that are a right fit for you, and build successful influencer marketing campaigns. So before we get started, though, we want to give you a little bit of an exercise that you can sit down with, your marketing team or your partners and kind of go through this slide before you even think about reaching out to who you want to reach out to. So the first step is to define your brand values. Who are you? What is your target demo like? What kind of content do you want to put out there in terms of influencer marketing? Are you looking for clean content versus explicit content? Are you looking for raw, like shot on an iPhone, or commercial quality, polished with sound design? That's really up to you, but these are decisions that you need to make prior to your search. And then it's defining your audience, like what generation is your target demo? What are their interests? What are their behaviors? Do these certain influencers match the content style of your brands? Like a Gen Z influencer who has 500,000 followers may not appeal to a Gen X audience. Like an influencer who reviews products may not fit with a service-based industry. Next, we want to define our goals. Like, what do we want out of this? We're going to spend a little bit of money. Do we want followers? Do we want clicks? Do we want people commenting, sharing? Or is it the end goal? Do we want sales? And because you're product-based businesses, from what I hear, I'm sure sales is the key. And then the final step prior to looking for your influencers is to create a hashtag library. I'm sure some of you have one already, but it's just a good exercise to have 20 hashtags that you circle in and out of all your social media platforms. And this will help in terms of search, looking for your influencers. Next slide, please. All right. So finding the right content creators for you. This is a big step. So first and foremost, obviously, we can go to the platforms that they're on: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. A nice little hack of what you can do is if you have sort of like a group or type of creator that you already follow, that you already see, oh my God, I would love to work with him or her. We want you to train your personal algorithm. So go in, follow the creator, comment on as many videos as you can, watch their videos, and the algorithms will start feeding you content that is similar to that creator. Basically, we want to get people that are outside of our sphere already, that are already in our algorithm, and to broaden that to the types of creators that we want to hire. And then it's just a rinse and repeat. You want to continue to do this, over and over and over again until your algorithm's trained to your liking. Another thing we didn't list here is you can check your competitors. You can look at the influencers that they have used and they have worked with, and then find out which ones were successful in terms of views, because that's about the only metric you'll have. And you can target them as well. This in the middle is a profile called Hawaii Creators. So it's run by our friend Darren. He's basically collected a bunch of local influencers. So if you want to start a search, this is like a really, really, really good resource. In their following list, that 214 people are all the creators that are already in their network. And like a wide gamut of creators from comedians, videographers, photographers, models, foodies, like they did some work and they have a really, really deep network of people. So that would be like a super awesome place to start. And if you want to go abroad, if you're looking for more national exposure, there are influencer marketing platforms. These are definitely best for talent outside of Hawaii. Like through our experience, we have one of our clients that's on both of these platforms, and we've only run into one other Hawaii content creator, but they have benefits if you're looking for broad scale. So Upfluence offers affiliate marketing. They're definitely data driven in terms of tracking and search, and they have integration with ChatGPT. Affluencer is sort of like a job posting. Like you can post like a ZipRecruiter job for influencers. And they claim to have like the world's largest marketplace of influencers. So let's say I need one Instagram reel featuring product A. I can put it up there and say, you know what, I have $2,500. I want one video, 30 seconds in length. And then influencers can basically bid or apply to get the job. So good source, again, more if you're going big, bold. Universal Studios, Target, Tesla, and a bunch of other massive, massive brands use these platforms. Next slide, please, Munch. Okay, so we did some discovery. We found a couple of people we'd like to work with. Now we want to do a little bit deeper dive into the influencer because right now all we really have is views, followers, but we want to see what engagement rates look like without having to do the math on our own. So here are two tools for you. One is hypeauditor.com, completely free. You go to the website, you type in someone's Instagram handle, and then they'll give you the engagement rate. Another tool, which is modash.io. It's paid. You got a 14-day free trial, but this is if you want more in-depth analytics and demographics into the influencers. So you can get age, gender splits, and then the city and country of location. You don't need a credit card. And if you want to go the cheap route, you just keep punching on new emails every time you run out of your 14 days. A little free hack. Yeah, and through our experience, there's no real free options for this like deep audience demographics. Next slide. So here's engagement using Hype Auditor in action. So two pretty prominent Hawaii influencers. On the left, we have Island Magic Mike. He's a comedian. He does sketches. You know, he's got a bunch of characters. And on the right, we have Clark Little, arguably one of the most famous surf photographers in the world. So I ran their numbers through Hype Auditor, and now you can see their engagement rates. So on the left, Magic Mike has 4.41%, and Clark Little, who has literally 10x the amount of followers he has, is at 0.45. Now, if we look at their engagement rates, they're pretty like line in line the same. So not all influencers are the same, right? We have one with 2.1 million and one with 200,000, but they're getting the same amount of people to comment, like, and share on their posts as each other. So this is a little bit of homework that you can do that will make sure that you're getting more bang for your buck, because Clark Little is going to charge a much, much, much higher rate than Island Magic Mike would. And if you are looking for engagement, your money is probably better spent with Island Magic Mike. Next slide, please. Okay, so we found some people, did a little bit of research. We know even more who we want to work with. The funnel's kind of been whittled down. How do we get in contact with them? And we'll shoot you straight. You just slide into their DMs. It's the best and easiest way. They're the most engaged there. They probably check their DMs more than they check their text messages. So it is the best way. But message from the business's account. If you are an owner or a marketing person and you're reaching out to influencers through your own personal accounts, it could be easily discounted as spam. And we don't want to waste your effort. So if it's coming from the business, obviously it adds credibility. Here's a nice little hack for you. You know, in Instagram Messenger, we only get the first 20 characters in the preview. So in those first 20 characters, make it enticing. Hey, we have a paid opportunity for you. We want to partner with you. Would you like to partner with us? Um, this would just give you the edge because if the influencer is large, they're getting tons of DMs and we want to stick out a little, right? We want to be able to be at first glance, pop out amongst the rest. And then if they have a website, go to their website, fill in an email. And then if they have LinkedIn, you can message them on LinkedIn. Cool. Next slide. Okay. So deal structures. We can really get into the weeds here because this is like, it can be an incredibly complicated piece, but we're going to keep it nice and simple here. So the first type of structure is a paper post. So it is what it sounds like. You ask for one, you get one. Like this is a good testing ground for performance and alignment for both parties, right? If we pay for a post, we want to make sure that it achieves at least some of our goals. This is honestly probably the most typically used. Um, Another thing is we could test using the content creator's content, but not going to their page. So I'll give you an example. Like one of our clients, we did a deal with BuzzFeed and they did not want his profile. They just wanted the content to fill their page. So there's types of deals if you're in publication or media, um, just a one-off. So this paper post is definitely very popular. Another option is affiliate marketing. This is like ideal if you're looking to build a long-term relationship with an influencer. Like if you are in retail, let's just say Lahaole sponsored an influencer and that influencer only wears Lahaole. And then maybe once a month, the influencer be like, hey, do you like these shirts? I have a code, 10% off. And then the influencer will get a kickback for every sale that is made because of their marketing. It works. It's tried and true. It's used across the board. Another is trade. This is obviously the best case scenario. You have the best profit margin here. It is the most cost effective. And you know, it works best with nano and micro influencers. But basically, let's use La Haole as the example. If they were getting a new model that is on the rise in popularity, say, hey, you know what? We're gonna give you 5 La Haole dresses. They're retailed at this. Can we get 10 posts out of you over the next 3 months? Great deal for you. No cash out, plus your profit margin. That's a win. Now there's other ways. We can work with influencers that are a little more off the beaten path. So we can do Instagram or TikTok lives. We can do in-person appearances. We can do account takeovers. Now that works with X slash Twitter, or that can work on stories for like YouTube Shorts or IG. Um, there's also like product placement. Like I have a buddy who does a weekly series where he does a mix, and sometimes he'll put a branded product in front of his computer so that it's in view of the video. And that's something that he does 52 times a year. So that's another angle that you can take where it's like less abrasive to the viewer. It's more subtle, but at the same time, if you have that product placement week after week, whoever is accustomed to watching those videos and gets it every Monday, they're going to see your logo. Okay, next up.
Actually, I'm going to jump in here just for a moment and say, even with pay per post, influencers are often looking for longer term partnerships. And so, even for pay per post in a trial relationship, uh, you're probably looking still for more than one post that you'd be working on. One post is great, but 3 posts, for example, over the next few weeks is going to tell you a lot more about what it's like to work with the influencer and also how successful the content that they create will be for your brand. So just something to keep in mind. One and done, it can be okay and it can teach you a lot, but definitely as you budget and you think through what your strategy is, think about creating multiple posts or working in multiple ways with this influencer so that you can really, even in this short term, get the most out of your investment.
Perfect. Fine points. All right. Negotiations. So this also can be sticky, and it was one of our challenges listed in the earlier slides. Um, but if you pull all the things that we've worked on together today, you already know your objectives because that was in the first exercise. And you relay that message to the influencer. Like, we want sales, we want brand awareness, we want clicks to our site. The next step would be to ask for a rate card. Now, not every influencer will have a rate card. If you're dealing with nano or micro influencers, odds are they won't. But if they do, it is a great starting ground for negotiation. Please keep in mind that the rate card is always going to be on the highest desirable end for the content creator. Like, that is almost their Godfather ask, but it is a good place to start. Like, I have been on both sides. We have a client that has like over 4 million followers, and we price extremely high on the rate card. And then we can always come down. And then I've been on the other end where I'm asking, and the rate card is just insane. Like, this is way out of our budget. So it's a good place to start here and here, and then work your way towards middle where both parties are really happy. Um, so if they have no rate card, offer trade, as we mentioned earlier, but not exposure, because through my experience, influencers can take exposure as a slight, especially if your brand has like a lower follower count than them, and they are already working on getting exposure every day. And most times I would say they're in a mindset of, I want to be a full-time content creator, which means I need to at least get product in exchange. So, and if not, then you want to work on package deals like Manchali mentioned, right? So if they do have their rate card and let's say one reel is $1,000, then you can easily pivot and say, hey, what about 3 reels over the course of the next 3 months for $2,000? And most of them will be open to negotiating because, again, like Manchali said, they want long-term deals because they want consistent money coming through the door. Um, And next, you got to be upfront about your budget limitations. Shoot the low end here because again, we're trying to like find the happy medium. But if the influencer says they want 10K per post, but you're only willing to spend 2,000, like be upfront with them. And if you have to part ways, you have to part ways. But at least you have a high and a low and trying to find the middle. Um, yeah, the next step would be to discuss what type of deliverables you're getting. So am I getting X amount of posts? Am I getting X amount of reels, stories, lives? Do we have static images? Are you going to blog? And all that should be discussed again, based upon what your goals are, what your budget is, in request to how much content you're going to get. And this should be like very clear. All of this is going to go into writing. Deadlines should be met with time for approval process. Um, but know where you are and know what you want. And then the next is to agree on a campaign duration. So like the example above, right? Like we have a 3-month campaign getting 1 post a month. And then you can determine when launches, but you should also have a schedule of, okay, well, when am I going to see the proof after we do some brainstorming? And then when is it going to go live on your end? And then lastly, we have content rights. So this is really, really, really big. We want to get all the rights that we can. Licensing and usage is something that isn't really discussed too much. And really straight up, it's just the how and how long you can use their content. So like in the example I used with BuzzFeed, their deal was we own it. You create it, we own it. You can post it on your page if you want, but it's not a requirement. They have full usage. Some deals will be, hey, you have 3 months to use this content, and then the influencer owns it after that, but it can live on your page. So this one runs a very wide gamut. But can we repurpose it? Can we get exclusivity for 6 months? Let's say you're Laha Ole. Can I secure a deal with you where you don't wear any other Aloha products for 6 months? That would be the goal. Uh, when you post, do we get a partnership? So our IG accounts are tied together? Because all of these could be left out if you don't bring them up. And then maybe a big one is like, can we use this for advertising? Can we run this on paid social? Like, can I use this on Instagram during Thanksgiving for Black Friday if we create this content in March? Like, these are things to think about as you're negotiating terms with them. Because, if the organic piece does well, why wouldn't you want to use it when your season is up? Thanksgiving through Christmas. But things to think about, and just make sure that everything's transparent on both sides. All of this needs to go in writing. Next slide. Okay, so after we've locked in a deal, to me, this is the fun part where you get to brainstorm and align both with the influencer and you as the brand. Like, we want to sort of give a framework of what the creator should be talking about in essence. Like, here's an ideation phase, but we want the creator to create. Like, let them do them. Like, they have thousands of followers for a reason because that's their jam. They create content all day, every day, and they know what their audience loves. That's why they continue to do it. So it's sticky, like, we have a vision for our brand and our company or our products, and it's hard to let go of that and let go of control, or at least it can be. But in this sense, we really need to let the creator do what they do because they're going to make the content successful. There's been some instances that I've seen where the brand came in too hard, like, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then it tanked. So the brand spent $5,000 and got a tenth of what they would normally get out of this creator, and it can completely backfire on you. So it's sort of a touch and go thing. Obviously, you want to basically have, hey, here's our idea, here's this product that we're trying to promote. Like, this is the essence, this is our brand identity. Like, what can you do with that? And then see what happens. And the good creators will be like, bam, 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 bam. Try that. Try this. What about this? I like this. Oh, okay. And then somehow you'll find the medium. Um, and lastly, like, call to action. So, like, every influencer will have a different level of comfortability when it comes to being salesy. Like, oh, this Weber grill is my favorite grill ever, and this is the only one I ever use. Some influencers aren't going to be as bold as that. So this is a discussion that you need to have with them to see, like, what is important. What are you comfortable with doing? How early can we get a CTA in your video? Because the earlier you get it, the better. Videos drop off in terms of viewers in like 3 to 5 seconds. So that's something that you can ask for in terms of negotiation if we go back. Sorry about that. But yeah, test different CTAs, like shop now, learn more, sign up, all have different meanings and different purposes. This works especially well if you have a long-term deal doing affiliate marketing where you can test, like, hey, I got this shirt at X up front, or you can test it at the end. Cool. Next slide. Oh, you're on mute.
I was on mute. And so, when you're collaborating with these influencers, I think it's also really helpful to know what are common content types. And you definitely can tell by looking through their content what they typically do. But we wanted to equip you with 4 of sort of the common ones you see, tutorials or how-tos. This is great for products and services where you really want to show your audience how best to do something, how it's going to make their life easier, how it's going to make them beautiful, um, how they can fix a pain point that they have. And tutorials and how-tos are one of the easiest ways to do that. Reviews or testimonials, pretty straightforward. This is going back to if your goal is to build trust and credibility about your brand or your product or your service within this new audience. And so, having the influencer talk about what it's like to use your products versus teaching someone how to use the products can be very, very powerful. Uh, we do want to be honest. Sometimes with influencers, if you ask for testimonials, they're going to give the good and the bad because they don't want to mislead their audience. And so you have to feel comfortable that that may come through. Behind the scenes. So this is really about humanizing your brand and building a closer connection. If you're talking, we've been talking about Aloha Wear today. If we're talking about Aloha Wear, maybe humanizing the brand is the behind the scenes of starting with the design, where that came from, where the how it moves from paper to digital, and then digital to printing on fabric, and then being in the factories and seeing that fabric cut apart. Every business has a story behind it that, and people want to see that sweat equity. They want to understand why you're so passionate about your brand so that they can be passionate about it too. We also want to point out that behind the scenes does not have to be so serious. Every mess up that you make, all the bloopers, they also want to see that because people relate to just being human. And so influencers are a great way to tell that story about your brand in a way that's a little less stiff. And then finally, storytelling. This is your brand in action. So that can be hey, this is what happened to me today, and your brand, your product, your service is integrated into that. That's hey, follow me throughout today. I'm going hiking, or yesterday was the Great Aloha Run. Run with me on the run and let's see how my shoes do, or whatever that is. But it's really taking your product or your service through a trial for the audience to watch. And then finally, and I think this is maybe one of the hardest things, is really evaluating success. You've done all of this great work with the influencer, your whatever pieces of content are out there. Now you need to figure out, did it work? Starting with your key performance indicators or your KPIs. This will be different for every company. This will be different for every relationship with an influencer. And this is all based on the goals that we discussed earlier. So some common ones are engagement rates. So if somebody has 10,000 followers and they have a 5% engagement rate, that means that you got tons of likes and shares and comments. Reach and impressions. Impressions are how many times that piece of content has been seen, and reach is how many people saw that piece of content. Great for awareness. Growth in followers. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. If what you're trying to do is grow your audience, you can see those numbers change on your own. Number of conversions. And again, conversions are different for everybody. How many people signed up for your email newsletter? How many people purchased this widget or this service or this shirt? Knowing how many how many times was the influencer's affiliate marketing code discount used, and then return on investment. And this one, I think, for people who are not making direct sales, have the hardest time with this. because you know if you sold this shirt that this shirt is $100, but you may not have that type of a business. And so calculating your return on investment, knowing that you spent $1,000 with this influencer and that eventually turned into money, is probably going to be your hardest calculation, but one of the most important to determine whether or not this is something you want to do again in the future. So how to track all those KPIs? Tracking and analytics programs are your friend. Google Analytics, social media platforms often have an insights section that gives you a lot of that tracking data. A lot of influencer marketing platforms as well will come with tracking capabilities. If your goal is to drive traffic to your website through link clicks, UTM parameters that are specific to the influencer, as well as which video the influencer might be using, can be added to the links so that when someone clicks on it, your website can track that through. And in some cases, and this might be true especially for smaller, um, for influencers with smaller audiences, like a nano or micro influencer, sometimes all you're going to get are screenshots, screenshots from within their account telling you, hey, this had 10,000 views and 5,000, engagements. And so it kind of runs a wide gamut, and we're sorry that things are not more standardized, but this is the world, and screenshots sometimes are going to be your only friend. So we went through a lot today, just a quick summary of what we covered. There are 5 types of influencers, and nano and micro have the most influence over niche topics, where a mega influencer has probably the broadest reach across a larger locations or more locations, and also that influencers are on multiple platforms. When getting started, you got to start with you. Understand your brand. Once you understand your goals, find influencers that align with your brand values and know what you want to accomplish, what you're trying to get out of this deal or this partnership. Once you're ready to negotiate, slide into their DMs. And we gave you some basic deal structures that can give you a nice sort of starting point to start those negotiations. When collaborating on content, we gave you some tips on how best to collaborate and some common content types. And then finally, evaluating success. We gave you a few example KPIs, key performance indicators, and also a few tracking and analytics tools you can use. And so that brings us up to question time. Thank you all for your time. Ellen, if you want to take it from here.
No, I mean, we can look at the Q&A together, but before we do that, just a really quick shout out for some upcoming e-commerce and digital marketing events. DBET is hosting its Your Future in E-commerce conference happening tomorrow at Alam One Hotel. The link to register is in the chat. HTDC will be hosting another webinar as well next week with Ember Media coming to talk about the power of storytelling, building a brand presence on social media. And lastly, if you are a manufacturer or maker looking to get into e-commerce and improve your digital marketing for your company, Innovate Hawaii under HTDC will be hosting its next e-commerce and digital marketing cohort starting in April. There's going to be an info session on on March 6th. So RSVP for the info session link is also available in the chat. So without further ado, let's take a look at Q&A. I think we lost Titus. I don't know where he went, but we have you, Monchali. So maybe let's just start with question 1. So someone's asking, when you say FB is the largest platform for Hawaii, do you know what the Hawaii user stat is? And I think it was referring to one of your slides earlier in the presentation.
Yeah. So in Hawaii, Facebook still has the highest number of users that are Hawaii based. It goes up and down, but it's usually between 800 and 900,000 people who are based in the state of Hawaii. And, considering we only have 1.4 million, that's a pretty big number of people to be dedicated to one platform. Now, it doesn't mean that those people are active on Facebook. And that's not something that we really have access to or can see. But in terms of getting the furthest possible reach, Facebook will definitely be your friend. Titus, do you have anything to add to that?
It is definitely the most cost effective in terms of targeting an older demographic with Facebook ads or Instagram ads.
Also, when we
It's
say
really good.
older demographic, what does that mean, Titus?
Like 55 plus.
Great.
Awesome, thank you. Next question. Any suggestions about how nonprofit organizations can go about working with influencers to spread awareness about their mission? That's a big question.
Oh,
That
that's a big
is,
question. Titus, you want to
that's a
take it or
very
shall I?
loaded. Maybe we can both do it. You can go ahead and then I'll follow up.
Yeah, so I would say, start with your mission, whether that is, let's say that you really want to impact how people treat our ocean resources. Then looking for an influencer whose content is really focused around the ocean and ocean sports, ocean life, ocean photography. Are they surfers, things like that? People, watermen. Looking for people who live in the space that you want to protect is a really good place to start. And so going back to those hashtags that you use, um, looking for hashtags that overlap with others, with the influencers, I think is really important. Um, and a lot of times influencers are really passionate about something. And so you may already be able to see from their content that their values align with yours. They're already working in the lois, or trying to bring back or maybe they're great with kids and they have a family member who is special needs. There's a lot that you can learn from their content, and having the right hashtags really gets you started in the right place.
Mhm. Yeah, more of the same. It would be go on a search, dive deep, watch content. Like you never know what sort of causes they're passionate about. Like, one of my clients is like an adoptee, and like you wouldn't know unless you really, really, really dug into his content. Like you would have to go pretty deep, but he's super passionate about it. And then he'll do things for free if it has anything to do with adoption. So it's really just a matter of search and watch. I know it takes time. It can be very tedious, but it can also be very entertaining. Um, but it's just a matter of like finding the right person who's hit by the right cause that's aligned with the nonprofit. Um, I would say that's like a quantity play. If you don't have the time to like go down and look through half an hour's worth of videos on every influencer, like I think it would be like a very sympathy message up front, like, hey, this is blank from Hawaiian Humane Society. We don't have a ton of budget, but we see your work and we love it, and you think you can spread a good message for us, da 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 da. Something like that. Like a sympathy play on bulk would be pretty good. It would be a start, at least a conversation starter.
So we just on that note, just building on that question as well, like from a rate/payment perspective to the influencers, if you are a nonprofit, I mean, should you aggressively kind of ask for a lower rate considering, you are not a for-profit company?
I don't think aggressive is the right word,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think influencers also understand that there are organizations with smaller and limited budgets. And so, even just saying, being upfront about that, we are a small organization with limited budget, but we really want to work with you. Is there a deal we can work out? And you really allow the influencer to feel into that and see what works for them. And again, going back to what Titus said earlier, be transparent. If you only have $2,000 to make this work, and that's it, that's your cap, tell them, because they may end up saying, hey, I can't help you, but I know someone who can.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great segue.
Transparency. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, so that's a great segue into the next question. Someone's asking, what is a rate card?
It's a price list. Very simply, it's a price list for all the services that they offer. Like it could look like Instagram Reels are $100, Instagram Stories are $50. You know, if you buy 5 Reels, it's gonna be X. It really depends on the influencer, but yeah, it's just like a price list. Like if you're gonna order off of a menu at a restaurant, like each item costs a certain amount.
So, okay, next question. Can you provide an example of what would be included in a creative brief that you would send an influencer? Would the info be based on the info you gather during understanding your brand?
Yes.
In the Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it starts with the info that you gather during understanding your brand, but it's more than that as well, right? So understanding your brand is sort of your business overall, but if you're trying to sell, this pair of glasses, right? You have to think about what is your goal. If it's about the specific thing, and maybe you need the glasses to be shown, and ideally we mentioned that it comes in 3 colors, and that they come in a range of sizes for people with big heads or little heads or whatever, right? Whatever those details are, if you need to have a certain color in the background because that is your core color for your brand, those are the small details that you can include. If, for example, your brand is super family friendly and isn't comfortable with cuss words, but a lot of influencers do use cuss words in their content, you might say, hey, can we keep those cuss words to a minimum? So it's just a little bit of direction, not dictation, that you would give to the influencer to ensure that they hit all of your important bullet points.
Okay. Next one, from Lily. Leela, sorry. Do you use any third-party apps to track metrics?
Great question. So this is going to be really dependent on you and your business, right? Everyone has different platforms that they use. Whether you're using something like Sprout Social, or if you're not using it, yes, there are. And all of our clients use something different and a little bit, and some of them have also proprietary uh, apps that they use as well. But the answer is yes, you can use third-party apps to track metrics. I don't have any solid recommendations for you, other than the basics, because it would really depend on what your business needs.
I think just to kind of dive a little bit deeper on that question, a lot of businesses always ask me, like, there's so many different metrics to track, but in this specific context of influencer marketing, if you had to pick, just say 3 maximum metrics to track, like what would it be and why?
Titus, go for it.
Uh, it's definitely engagement. That's number one. So it sort of looks at the funnel. Man, it really depends on your product or your service. So I mean, we're gonna take La Hawley and Aloha Retail since that's the example that we've been sticking with. So to me, the funnel would be engagement, clicks, and then purchases.
But even like I guess the question, like even in a form of engagement, like what is more important? For instance, if it's a video that you're putting up,
Mm,
it's length of viewing more important, or is it number of likes that's more important? Is it reshares? Is it saves? Right? There are just so many that we all, I mean,
right,
as agencies, we look at everything, but as business owners,
right.
it's a little bit hard for them. So what would you recommend for them to look at, I guess? Just say taking that example again into
I
context.
think shares is the top of the mountain with that. Shares is like the most important metric because a person that really needs to love the video to send it to their friend, right? Does that make sense? Like you're not gonna send bad videos to your friends, like, hey, look at this. Um, there are a lot of people that live in comments, and there are a lot of people that just like spam like videos. But to me, like sharing is by far the most important metric if we're not looking at conversions.
Got it.
And I want to put it out there that a share, so all of these metrics that Ellen mentioned, they sort of have like different levels of value depending on how hard it is to get someone to do it, right? So easy to like something, and we all like things pretty frivolously at this point. But like Titus mentioned, content has to be really good in order for you want to, or really valuable in order for you to want to share it with your friends. And so it takes more effort. The content has to be better or more relevant in order to garner a share. So even though conversions, if the conversion is what you're looking for, is most important, definitely shares indicates how successful your piece of content was. But things like views or view rates, or how much of the video has been viewed, whether the view rate is more than 100%, meaning that people are not only willing to watch it more than once, but chances are then they leaned over to their friend and they said, hey, look at this. Those are also, in my opinion, very important, because it really does talk about the depth of engagement.
And the social aspect of, I guess, social media, right? So,
Exactly.
There you go.
okay, cool. Next question. Can an influencer ever become overused or oversaturated to be of benefit, especially in a smaller market like Hawaii?
That's a dangerous question.
Tread
um,
lightly.
yeah. So I think with anything, you could feel like you're seeing someone too much, right? So this is less, I think, about the business and more about how the consumer feels. And so if the consumer is a foodie, and there are some very, very powerful foodie influencers in Hawaii, chances are they already watch all of their content. And if you partner with them and now you're paying to boost that content, they may feel like, man, I keep seeing only this person. But it's not necessarily because of that person is overused or oversaturated. It's really just about that the user and their what kind of content they are already watching. More than that, I would say, if you're using a popular local influencer, really take a look at whether they've partnered with your competitors. Because I think that would be where things get a little bit tricky. Hawaii is a pretty small market in the grand scheme of things. We do only have X number of popular influencers. And so less about overuse and more about just ensuring that you're not, that by using them, if your competitor has already used them, that you're not sort of mixing your messages up and confusing the consumer.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's get to the last question for today. What is the best way to find the right hashtags?
Titus, I give you this one. It's tricky.
uh, Use a word cloud web app. That's a super easy hack. Like if you use a word cloud based upon your industry, and then it'll give you a ton of words, and then you can start searching. And there's hashtag research tools available online as well. Um, and then you just sort of have to dwindle it down, nitty gritty by nitty gritty. It is a tedious process, but you start wide with a bunch of words and then bring it down, throw them into the research calculator, see how well they're doing, and then dwindle you down to your 20. I would say that's the easiest way to go. But
Are
you,
there
you
any
know your
research?
industry.
Are there any research like hashtag tools that you would recommend or are like your go-tos?
I can send you some.
Okay, cool. If you send me, we will send it in our recap event email that goes out with the link to the recording. So
Okay,
I will follow up with Titus after this. Awesome.
sounds good.
Okay.